Welcome to Beyond the Surface. Today's latest episode edition, we are going to dive into the fascinating world of aquaculture and fisheries science. Join us as we discuss innovative solutions for sustainable seafood production, environmental impacts, and the future of the industry. My guest today is a student from Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, LUANAR, Bunda Campus, who is pursuing bachelor's degree in aquaculture and fisheries science. You may wonder why aquaculture and fisheries science matters, but it is significant for us people together with the nation so that we can have proper seafood, so that our fish can be of good value on the market. My guest, feel welcomed. First of all, introduce yourself so that people should hear first-hand information from yourself, as well as a brief background about how it goes upon reaching tertiary level, like school journey of secondary and primary level, how it was like.
Thank you. My name is Barnett Junior Magalasi, pursuing bachelor's degree in aquaculture and fisheries science at the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, specifically at Bunda Campus. So, commencing with my academic background, I did my primary school at Lilongwe Primary School. Then I was selected to a community secondary school known as Catholic Institute Community Secondary School, where I did my Form 1 up to Form 4. There, I was studying the humanities. So, according to my goal, I was thinking of being a scientist, but due to peer pressure, people are saying, taking physics, chemistry, mathematics, these things are difficult. So, because of that, I decided to drop them. As such, I didn't do well my MSc at Catholic Institute Community Secondary School. Then I repeated at Namiwawa Community Open. So from there, I started my Form 3 up to Form 4, where I get my second certificate, which was MSc. That was in 2022. From there, I applied for the programs from different public universities in Malawi. Lucky enough, I was selected to pursue my bachelor's degree in aquaculture and fisheries science. Currently, I'm in second year. So, in a brief, that is all about my education background.
The word aquaculture, what does it define and what are the types of aquaculture?
Now, talking more about the program, aquaculture and fisheries, these words, they are used interchangeably, but they have different meanings. When we are talking of aquaculture, we are talking of a farming practice of keeping aquatic organisms. So, These aquatic organisms, we are talking of those organisms that live on water. So these organisms that are found in water, we call them fisheries. So when we hear about fisheries, people just think that we are only talking about fish. No, it's not only about fish, but it's also about anything that is found on water. So these include plants, so specifically aquatic plants like planktons and algae, which are found in water. But also we talk about the mollusks. These ones, they are also found in water. Apart from that, we also talk about crustaceans. These things, they are also found in water. Then lastly, we have the fish itself as an example of fisheries. So there are different types of fishes. So when talking of fishes, we are talking of different kinds of fishes in terms of their species. So these fishes, for example, we are talking of catfish, popularly known as milamba. So these are vesicularis fish. So they are an examples of fisheries. Apart from that, we also have the tilapias like Oleochromis mozambicus, which is known as macacana. So these are under fisheries. Now going back to aquaculture as a system, there are three types of aquaculture. So we have intensive, semi-intensive, but also extensive. So there are few of them. Now beginning with intensive, this system, we are talking of a facility which is man-made, and this facility relies 100% on a farmer. They don't rely on natural resources. While semi-intensive, we are talking of that system that relies on both the natural, but also they rely on the care that is provided by the farmer. So this one, it's on a medium production. So the last type is extensive. So in this system, they 100% depend on nature. So it means it doesn't require a farmer to provide any feed or to take any measure on a disease or parasite control. Once a farmer insets his fingerlings, so I'm talking of fingerlings, these are the small fishes. So these species, once they are right there, the farmer is done. So it only relies on nature for it to reproduce. And on this system, there is low production.
Importance of something is the first priority. What are the importance of aquaculture in global food security?
Now talking about the importance of aquaculture. Aquaculture as a farming practice, it produces aquatic organisms, for example fish, mollusks, but also crustaceans. So these things, they are rich in proteins. So protein helps us to prevent deficiency diseases like kwashiorkor, but also anemia. So these aquatic organisms, they are rich in proteins. So it means they have a nutritive value. Apart from that, in terms of, again, food security, we are talking of high population growth. So high population growth, it means the population will need food. And where is that food coming from? It means it's coming from farming. So one of those types of farming we're talking of aquaculture, which produces these aquatic organisms. For example, we are talking of China, which has a high population. As a result, they can't just rely on meat from different animals. It means there will be a deficiency. So to prevent that, aquaculture is there to solve those problems by providing alternative sources of proteins, which is fish, mollusks, and crustaceans. So in this country, you'll find people eating things like snails. So those ones, how are they produced? They are produced through aquaculture. So this is how aquaculture is beneficial in terms of food security to the globe.
You as Barnett Junior Magalasi, what sparked your interest in aquaculture and fisheries science after finishing your secondary school?
Now, talking about what sparked my interest in aquaculture and fisheries science field, it's a long journey. So it begins when I visited my child friend, and this child was having his uncle who was working in aquaculture and fisheries department. So that uncle was having a car, but also he was making more money. So I was just interested. How do your uncle make money? So he said he studied aquaculture and fisheries. So I asked, is aquaculture and fisheries a beneficial field? Can you survive using aquaculture and fisheries? He said yes, and this is an example. So starting from there, I started generating the interest on how can a person survive using that field. But also I was having questions when I saw the cages on television, like the ones that are used by Madeko in Mangosh. How do they rear fish using those cages? And at the same time, I was seeing the prices of fish made by those countries, specifically those companies. So these companies were using those cages, and how do they feed fish? How do they produce such huge numbers of fish? So that was how I get the interest on studying the field of aquaculture and fisheries.
Benefits and challenges are there in aquaculture. Can you share with us the benefits and challenges involved in aquaculture so that those who are interested in pursuing aquaculture can know before deciding or opting the aquaculture field?
Now, talking about the benefits and challenges faced by aquaculture field, here we have more benefits. For beginning with self-employment. So aquaculture is there to provide employment. Instead of people going around and looking for jobs in companies, it is there to provide them with something to do. And that something, they are going to benefit at the end of the day. But also, once that facility is growing, it means the industry is also growing, and it is there now to provide jobs to more individuals. So from there, it means there will be a creation of jobs, hence preventing poverty, which is faced by many citizens in our country. Apart from that, aquaculture also helps us to conserve the environment. And the question is how? So aquaculture as a system, it is there to utilize the abandoned land. The land that is abandoned can be utilized under aquaculture as a system. So under this type of farming, people can construct the scientific dams in areas where the land is abandoned and making that land to be productive. So these are some of the benefits that aquaculture brings at family level, then community level, but also at national level in terms of their benefits. Now, moving on to the challenges, there are different challenges faced by the field. So some of them include lack of capital, but also lack of skills. So people just practice aquaculture without knowing exactly what to do. So just because you are doing it without exactly knowing how to handle the things, you may end up getting a loss. As such, aquaculture is a profitable business, but because people don't know how to operate the things, they end up not making the profits. And the other challenge is the lack of capital. So many graduates that have graduated from the field, they are there just moving around. Others were just there teaching in those private schools. Why? Because they lack capital. Because we're talking of aquaculture, we're talking of a farming practice. So as a farming practice, it means it needs inputs. So where are those inputs going to come from? It means they're going to come from you. So where are you going to take those financial resources? It means you have nowhere to take them. As such, you may end up doing something which is out of your field. As a result, it may look like what you did is not beneficial to the country, but the country is failing to provide. So what are you supposed to do? It means you look like you have failed. So these are the main challenges that aquaculture field is facing.
On the other hand, sustainable practices and innovations are regarded as key players to effective aquaculture. Aquaculture impacts caused by environment are there indeed. What are the environmental impacts of aquaculture and sustainable aquaculture practices, as well as innovative technologies, in order to improve aquaculture's environmental footprint?
Now, talking about the sustainable aquaculture system. So when we are saying of sustainable aquaculture system, we have three different aspects, which are environmental aspect, social and economic aspect, but also production technology. So when we are talking of a sustainable aquaculture system, it means it should be environmentally compatible, which means that the environment should not be disturbed by the system. But at the same time, we're also talking of production technology. So technology is also involved. So that technology needs to be productive. Apart from that, we also have the last aspect, which is social and economic aspect. So it means that it should be socially relevant, but also at the same time, the farmers to be able to make profit, which means that the business is profitable, and that is on social and economic aspects. So under these sustainable aquaculture systems, we also have the systems which are used for culturing fish. So these systems include the cage, the pens, and the laceways. So when we're looking for the segregating system, this is a system whereby the water is allowed to move from one area to another. So as it is recirculating, a good example of this system is a laceway. So a laceway is used to catch a fish, and an example of a laceway here in Malawi is found in Zomba. So this one is mostly suitable for fish like catfish, which produces using that moving water. Then we have integrated systems whereby we have different kinds of integrated systems like on-farm and off-farm, but also the combination which does not involve the use of the things which are produced using agricultural farming. So on-farm, this involves the use of things which are produced using agricultural farming, and this includes the remains from the plants which are used to make the meals for the fish, which act as a fish feed. But also there are others that does not involve the use of farming systems, like the sewages. So these sewages can also be used to catch a fish since they contain nutrients.
Fisheries management and conservation is a priority. What are the regulations that are available, conservation efforts, and how overfishing has bring consequences?
Talking about the management and the regulation of aquaculture and fisheries. So this kind of farming involves different management operation. So it is difficult for a person who haven't studied aquaculture or who haven't ever heard about aquaculture to perform management practices. So for a person to do aquaculture, it means a person needs to have knowledge, and this knowledge is gained through studies. So management practices like feeding. Apart from feeding, we have manuring. Apart from manuring, we have disease and pest control, but also we talk about harvesting. So upon management, when we are talking of feeding, it means a farmer needs to know the type of feed that fish needs, whether it is a carnivorous, omnivorous, or it is a herbivorous. So these different types of fishes, it means they need different kinds of feeds. So apart from that, we also have manuring. So these practices, it helps in growth of plants so that they help to provide feeds to the aquatic animals that are found on water bodies. Apart from that, we also have disease and pest control, which also practice that needed skills. So a person who doesn't know how to control this, it may be difficult for him or her to operate. So talking about regulation, so on public water bodies, fishermen, they are allowed to catch fish for a specific period of time, and during other time they are not allowed because the water body is closed, so that the fish is allowed to breed.
Alright, young man, what are the environmental impacts caused by aquaculture and fishery science?
So aquaculture as a farming practice has the impacts on environment, but also the environment has the impacts on aquaculture. So beginning with the impacts of aquaculture on the environment, so we have positive but also negative impacts of aquaculture on environment. So there are so many positive impacts that aquaculture brings on environment. For example, there is organic waste reuse, whereby those wastes, they are used for manuring in fish ponds. So instead of destroying the environment in terms of pollution, they are recycled and they are used by the aquaculture system. Apart from that, there is also introduction of exotic fish. So these exotic species, they are introduced to the environment through the aquaculture system. Apart from that, we also have integrated pests management, whereby the pests are controlled on the environment using this aquaculture system. So now moving on to negative impacts of aquaculture on environment, we have things like overfishing, which means it will result to the depletion of fish as time goes. Apart from that, we also have eutrophication. We are talking of eutrophication. This is the process whereby the water bodies have a lot of planktons due to a lot of nutrients. So these ones, they produce gases which at the end destroys the environment. So this gas is mostly carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide on the water bodies, they are aquatic organisms which respire. So these gases, they disturb the life cycles of these organisms, hence resulting to death, and as time goes there will be a depletion. But also there is resource use conflict, whereby the resources can be negatively affected. So apart from that, also talk of ecosystem destruction, whereby other organisms can be affected due to the introduction of these foreign organisms. So those are the impacts of aquaculture on environment. Now moving on to the impact of environment on aquaculture, we know that we have natural environment and human-made environment. So going back to the systems, we have extensive, that is part of natural environment, but also we have human-made environment, which is the formation of the ponds, cages, or raceways. So these environment, which are natural but also human-made, they have the positive and negative impacts on the environment. So the natural environment provides fresh water, but also there is temperature, but also salinity. So these things, they highly contribute to the system of aquaculture. Apart from that, we also have human-made environment, which has the following importances, like reservoirs and irrigation schemes. So after you construct the pond, it is there to keep water, and that water can be used for irrigation. So going to the negative impacts of environment on aquaculture, we have pollution, but also deforestation. Since you need to create a pond, it means where there is trees, you are supposed to remove them so that you construct your pond. So those are the impacts of environment on aquaculture, but also impacts of aquaculture on environment.
As we conclude our journey into aquaculture, we have explored the depths of aquaculture, and the future looks promising for a more sustainable seafood industry. Join the movement towards sustainable seafood by supporting eco-friendly aquaculture practices and making informed decisions. The future of seafoods is in our hands. Let's dive in and make a difference through sustainable aquaculture. As consumers, you have the power to shape the seafood industry. Choose sustainability, choose aquaculture. Thanks for your time, listeners, and my guest. Stay tuned for other coming episodes. Bye for now.